नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 31, Lord Kapila's instructions on movement of living entities. So we are going to continue beginning with Chapter 31. And Chapter 31 begins with celebrated shloka. This is one of the most quoted shloka. You must, in our discussions also, we have quoted this shloka multiple times, right? Because it's a very powerful shloka. This comes from this particular section. So we'll just recite this. Karmana daiva netrena.
Karmana daiva netrena.
Sorry. Shri Bhagavan uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan uvacha.
Karmana daiva netrena.
Karmana daiva netrena.
Janturdeho papadyate.
Janturdeho papadyate.
Kriya pravishta udaram.
Striyaha pravishta udaram.
Pumso pretah kanashrayah.
Pumso retah kanashrayah.
Shri Bhagavan uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan uvacha.
Karmana daiva netrena.
Karmana daiva netrena.
Janturdeho papadyate.
Janturdeho papadyate.
Striyaha pravishta udaram.
Striyaha pravishta udaram.
Pumso retah kanashrayah.
Pumso retah kanashrayah.
Shri Bhagavan uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan uvacha.
Karmana daiva netrena.
Karmana daiva netrena.
Janturdeho papadyate.
Janturdeho papadyate.
Kriya pravishta udaram.
Kriyaha pravishta udaram.
Pumso retah kanashrayah.
Pumso retah kanashrayah.
Translation.
The personality of Godhead said, under the supervision of the Supreme Lord and according to the result of his work, the living entity, the soul, is made to enter into the womb of a woman through the particle of male semen to assume a particular type of body. Purport. As stated in the last chapter, after suffering different kinds of hellish conditions, a man comes again to the human form of body. The same topic is continued in this chapter. In order to give a particular type of human form to a person who has already suffered hellish life, the soul is transferred to the semen of a man who is just suitable to become his father. During intercourse, the soul is transferred through the semen of the father into the mother's womb in order to produce a particular type of body. This process is applicable to all embodied living entities, but it is especially mentioned for the man who was transferred to the Anthatamishra hell. After suffering there, when he who has had many types of hellish bodies, like those of dogs and hogs, is to come again to the human form. He is given the chance to take his birth in the same type of body from which he degraded himself to hell. Everything is done by the supervision of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Material nature supplies the body, but it does so under the direction of the Supersoul. It is said in Bhagavad Gita that a living entity is wandering in this material world on a chariot made by material nature. The Supreme Lord as Supersoul is always present with the individual soul. He directs material nature to supply a particular type of body to the individual soul according to the result of his work, and the material nature supplies it. Here, one word, Ritaha Kanashrayaha, is very significant because it indicates that it is not the semen of the man that creates life within the womb of a woman. Rather, the living entity, the soul, takes shelter in a particle of semen and is then pushed into the womb of a woman. Then the body develops. There is no possibility of creating a living entity without the presence of the soul simply by intercourse. The materialistic theory that there is no soul and that a child is born simply by material combination of the sperm and the ovum is not very feasible. It is unacceptable. Hare Krishna.
So now we are in chapter 31, and this chapter 31 is divided into 5 sections. So from 1 to 11, the first section of the chapter is Jiva's growth and suffering in the womb. So this is where this is what we are discussing right now. Second section of this chapter is 12 to 21. First 1 to 11, then 12 to 21, where we will see harassed by such suffering in the womb. Somebody may say, it's such a happy moment, Prabhuji. But, it's happy for the family, but for the living entity who is in the womb, it's very, very difficult. That, one can imagine one is living in such a cramped place for 9 months and sometimes even more. And therefore, the Jiva will offer prayers to the living entity, and these prayers are recorded in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Then third section is about from 22 to 31, suffering outside the womb, right? This is subsequently upon the birth. Then 32 to 48 about effects of bad association. And then there is understanding of birth and death. 32 to 43 and 44 to 48 is understanding of birth and death. So these are the 5 sections of this chapter. And now currently we are in the section of Jiva's growth and suffering in the womb. So here, Kapila Muni, he says, Karmana Daiva Netrena, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, right? So this is Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Shri Bhagavan has previously also said, Mayadhyakshena Prakriti in Bhagavad Gita. And now the same Bhagavan, same Shri Bhagavan Uvacha is saying, Karmana Daiva Netrena, right? So Bhagavad Gita will offer the seed concept, and Bhagavatam will elaborate on that seed into. So Bhagavad Gita is like the abstract, and Bhagavatam is like the thesis, right? So this is how Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, it's very, very closely connected. They are non-different, Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. And that's why the celebrated Abhanga of Tukaram Maharaj, Gita Bhagavata Kariti Shravana Akhanda Chintana Vithobanche, right? Such beautifully captured everything. Our entire essence of philosophy is captured in just 2 lines. This is the the potency, what do we call, asamanya pratibha of Tukaram Maharaj. So, karmana daiva netrena jantur dehopapattaye, under the supervision of the Supreme, according to the result of his work, a living entity is made to enter the womb of a woman through pumsaha retaha kanashrayah, and then a particular body is being aborted. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that in the previous chapter we have seen the suffering of the living entity in different hellish planets, and especially Andhata Mishra, and the same topic is now being continued here. right? So the living entity, he comes to the human form of life where he's supposed to live responsibly. Now, this responsibility is not there in the other lives, right? Other forms of the life, like cat's life, dog's life, and animal life, tree life, plant life, aquatic life, there is no responsibility of karma. Karma actions takes place, becomes the principle becomes active only when one is in the human form of the life. Why? Because human form of life is considered as the junction, and one is supposed to take a particular route. And somebody who has missed the human form of life, missed means misused the human form of life and performed the sinful activities. So according to his sinful activities, he will be sent to a particular hell, and he will be trained there for many lifetime, many for a long year. Then he will come up, he will receive another bodies, and slowly now Prabhupada says here, especially mentioned in this verse for a man who was transferred in the Andhata Mishra hell, and the process is applicable to all living entities. So what it means is, and then Prabhupada says, after suffering there many types of the hellish bodies, then to come again in the human form and is given a chance to take his birth in the same type of body from which he is degraded himself to hell. Okay, so now attention here is the same type of body from where he has degraded himself. So what this means is, we have the exam will come again and again unless we pass the exam. Say somebody is in the 7th standard, boy, girl, whoever it is, and he's not studying. Then he has to study this. He says, no, mama, I will not study. And then he's failed in the exam. Then next exam, the syllabus is same only, right? Next exam, the same syllabus is there. Again, he will study. So what it means is, until we pass a particular exam, we have to keep appearing again and again. And similarly, the human form of life is given as the opportunity to cross over the cycle of birth and death, and one should take this opportunity and pass that exam. Otherwise, punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jathare shayanam. And now, import of that verse, why it is called as, because generally pregnancy, motherhood, and these are very happy moments, and they should be, right? They should be. But from the ultimate perspective, when we see from the jiva's journey from one life to another, the perspective changes, right? So that doesn't mean that no, pregnancy, a legitimate pregnancy within the marriage is very important. Motherhood is extremely important and is celebrated. And here the child is only talking to mother. Who is that child? Kapila Muni, and he's talking to his own mother. So it is not to take some wrong conclusions from these discussions, right? Again, that age appropriate conclusions are very much required. Further, Srila Prabhupada explains that the material nature supplies the bodies, yantra rudhani māyā. And sometimes people may feel that the combination produces the life, but no. Pumsaha retah kanashraya. Pumsaha retah kanashraya means, unless and until there is a soul within that the sareta kanaha, then otherwise there is no possibility of life. So life comes from life. It is not that some material combination takes place and then there is a life. No, sir. Even for the test tube baby also, the life comes from life. Life never comes from matter. And Srila Prabhupada says this is, and therefore this word, Retaha Kanashraya, is very important. The particular soul has taken ashraya of particular type of personality, and he will be awarded particular type of body. And this is extremely scientific understanding and explanation. Nothing is by chance. Text 2. कललं त्वेकरात्रेण पञ्चरात्रेण बुद्बुदं दशाहने तु कर्कन्धु पेष्यण्डं वा ततः परम्. So now we are going to see the development of the child fetus within the womb of the mother. Okay, yeah.
On the first night, the sperm and ovum mix, and on the fifth night, the mixture ferments into a bubble. On the 10th night, it develops into a form like a plum, and after that, it gradually turns into a lump of flesh or an egg, as the case may be. Purport. The body of the soul develops in 4 different ways according to its different sources. One kind of body, that of the trees and plants, sprouts from the earth, and second kind of body grows from perspiration, as with flies, germs, and bugs. The third kind of body develops from eggs, and the fourth develops from the embryo. This verse indicates that after emulsification of the ovum and sperm, the body gradually develops either into a lump of flesh or into an egg, as the case may be. In the case of birds, it develops into an egg, and in the case of animals and human beings, it develops into a lump of flesh.
Right. So this verse is Bhagavatam sonography, right? Sonography as a technique was developed around 60, 70 years back. Bhagavatam is spoken 5,000 years ago. And there are sections in Bhagavatam which we can verify, which were not accessible even to the modern science. And that's why, we should have faith in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam that science will take a long, long, long time to reach to understanding of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Now, this is when after sonography, people before laughed at all this. They said, who believes in all this? But when this technique of sonography was being developed, and then they could really see what's happening within the womb and the development of the fetus, now they are realizing, oh my God, this is how the whole thing happens. And by the way, this is the side information in Bhagavatam. This is not the main thrust of Bhagavatam. This is just coming by the virtue of in the talk of discussions. Like this is not even the main core subject matter of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Okay, this is how powerful our scriptures are, especially Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita. So here is the process. What happens at the first night? The sperm and ovum mix. Then the 5th, there is a mixture, ferments into a bubble. The 10th, it forms like a plum and gradually turns into a flesh or an egg, as it may be the case. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, there are 4 types of living entities and the life develops according to 4 ways. So one kind of body, which is like trees and plants, they will sprout from the earth. The second kind of body grows from the perspiration, which is in the case of the flies, germs, and the bugs. Third kind of body develops into eggs, and fourth is forms into an embryo. And this verse is specifically only about the 4th one, right? And this is what the progress is. Text 3. Masena tu shirodvabhyam bhavangri adya angat vigraha nakha lobastri charmani Lingachichodravavastribihi. Translation.
In the course of a month, a head is formed, and at the end of 2 months, the hand, feet, and other limbs take shape. By the end of 3 months, the nails, fingers, toes, body hair, bones, and skin appear, as do the organ of generation and the other apparatus in the body, namely the eyes, nostril, ears, mouth, and anus. Hare Krishna.
So now this is how what is the development? So this is like first month sonography, second month sonography, third month sonography. Which is this sonography? This is Bhagavatam sonography, right? The course of the first month, the head is formed. At the end of the 2 months, hands, feet, and other limbs take shape. At the end of the 3rd month, the nails, fingers, toes, body hairs, bones, and skin appear. And then progressively, there is formation of eyes, nostrils, ears, mouth, and anus. So this is how the formation or development takes place. And just see how much in detail it is given. This science is explained elaborately in the Garbha Vijnana Shastra of Ayurveda, right? So Ayurveda, you will be very surprised to know how connected things are in our culture. Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Ayurveda, Bharatnatyam, and then regular arts of Rangoli making and, the festivals, seasons, everything is connected. Nothing is disconnected, right? Everything is connected. And what is that connecting factor? the connecting factor is Sutre Manigana Iva. That is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's connecting everything. That is as the connecting factor. Text 4. Chaturbhirdhatava sapta panchavit kshutra buddhavah shadbhir ayunavitah kukshau brahmyati dakshine. Translation.
Within 4 months from the date of conception, the 7 essential ingredients of the body, namely child, blood, flesh, fat, bone, marrow, and semen, come into existence. At the end of 5 months, hunger and thirst make themselves felt. And at the end of 6 months, the fetus enclosed by the amnion begins to move on the right side of the abdomen. Purport. When the body of the child is completely formed at the end of 6 months, the child, if he is male, begins to move on the right side, and if female, she tries to move on the left side.
So now this is after 1, 2, 3. Now this is the sonography of 4, 5, and 6 months. What happened at the end of 4th, 5th, and 6th month? While the 4th month, there is 7 essential ingredients of the body. Now, which are the 7 essential ingredients of the body? These are,
Saptadhatu, ras, rakta, mas.
rasa, then rakta, yeah, saptadhatu. They will be formed. Rasa, rakta, mamsa, meda, asti, majja, and virya. So these are going to be formed one after another. This is the 4 months from the date. At the end of 5 months, hunger and thirst will make themselves felt, right? And therefore we have that, and typically we say the child feels hungry and the taste and other things develops. And Hindi, I don't know what they call it. In Marathi, we have this dohale jevan, that they will say, the lady will say, what do you want to eat? And whatever she wants to eat, those items will be provided, because this is what the child really wants to enjoy from within. At the end of the 6 months, the fetus begins to move kukshav brahmyati dakshine. Now look at this point here. At the end of the 6 months, if the child is the male child, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, will try to move on the right side. And if the child is the female child, she will try to move on the left side. So an expert Ayurvedic physician, simply by the movement of the child within the womb, can very easily predict, whether the child is a male child or a female child. Of course, nowadays, this was predicted by sonography also, and it was very heavily misused. And, it was used for very, very low level purposes, and therefore it is permanently banned, as a practice. But, the one who is a expert Ayurvedic physician, from the nadi or from the movement, udar parikshan or nadi parikshan, they can very clearly tell whether the child is a male child or a female child, right? So a good point to tell here is, of course, this great personality is no more. There was a Dr. Dilip Gadge in Pune, very, very renowned Ayurvedic practitioner. He was guru of my wife, who is Ayurvedic doctor herself, and we had very, very deep connects with this family. And he was very expert for, giving a chit like this. So after 6 months, he will just look the nadi, and he will write 3 things he used to write to some very close. Now he's in this. I'm just explaining the glories of this Dr. Gadge. Very close students, and then he will write whether male or female, date of birth, and some basic characteristics simply by nadi pariksha. And he was phenomenally accurate, phenomenally accurate. So this is kukshav brahmyati dakshina. Okay. So why we are discussing this is because we should never deride our own culture. if something to deride, we should simply deride our intelligence, that how I am so stupid that I am not able to still understand the connection between all this. This is highly applicable to me because, I come from a background where I was like very, very atheistic and agnostic and used to question literally everything that was done in the name of religion. And because I was also exposed to that kind of literature in my early childhood, I had read a lot of left literature, this and that. But when I was exposed to this systematic knowledge, especially by His Grace Radhesham Prabhu, then we could realize how deep Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is, and how whole thing is so beautifully connected. So we should never deride our culture or the cultural practices. Sometimes they may be done little over enthusiastically, little stupidly, but that's still okay because this is the culture. This is the culture directly coming from the Supreme Lord. Text 5. मातुर्जघन्न पानादैर एकदैर धातुसम्मते क्षेत्रे विश्मुत्रयोगत गुयोगर्ते सजंतुर जंतु संभवे.
Deriving its nutrition from the food and drink taken by the mother, the fetus grows and remains in that abominable residence of stools and urine, which is breeding place of all kinds of worms. Purport. In the Markandeya Puran, it is said that in the intestine of the mother, the umbilical cord, which is known as Apyayanti, Pyayani, joins the mother to the abdomen of the child, and through this passage, the child within the womb accepts the mother's assimilated foodstuff. In this way, the child is fed by the mother's intestine within the womb and grows from day to day. The statements of the Markandeya Puran about the child's situation within the womb is exactly corroborated by modern medical science, and thus the authority of the Puranas cannot be disproved, as is sometimes attempted by the Mayavadi philosophers. Since the child depends completely on the assimilated foodstuff of the mother, during pregnancy there are restrictions on the food taken by the mother. Too much salt, chili, onion, and similar food is forbidden for the pregnant mother because the child's body is too delicate and new for him to tolerate such pungent food. Restrictions and precautions to be taken by the pregnant mother as enunciated in the Smriti scriptures of Vedic literature are very useful. We can understand from the Vedic literature how much care is taken to beget a nice child in society. The Garbhadhan ceremony before sensual intercourse was compulsory for persons in the higher grades of society, and it is very scientific. Other processes recommended in the Vedic literature during pregnancy are also very important. To take care of the child is the primary duty of the parents, because if such care is taken, society will be filled with good population to maintain the peace and prosperity of the society, country, and human race.
Yeah. So now this is during its nutrition from the drink and the food taken by the mother, the fetus grows and remains in that residence, which is in a. So there are two angles of this, because the fetus is also passing stool and urine at that place, and there are various kinds of worms around. This is how the place is within. And Srila Prabhupada quotes here Markandeya Puran. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains Markandeya Puran. It explained that how the mother is connected with the child is called as Apyayani, and this Apyayani through which the child's nourishment takes place within the womb of a mother, and that the child will grow day by day. And Prabhupada says that the statement of Markandeya Puran verbatim exactly match with the understandings of modern medical science, right? So, and thus Prabhupada says the authorities of the Puranas cannot be disregarded as it is done by Mayavadi philosophers. So Mayavadi philosophers, they say, no, we accept only Shruti, only Upanishad and Veda, and Smriti we do not accept like Puranas. And Prabhupada says, no, this is stupidity. Don't go in Shruti Smritivad, because Smritis are also very, very important, which are expanded literature based on the Shruti. Smriti, Shruti, Puranadi, Pancharatrika, Vidhi. All these are very important, right? Further, Srila Prabhupada explains that as the, how it is important for the pregnant mother to take care of food and what she is drinking, right? Because all that is, Prabhupada said, too much of a salt, chili, onion, similar other food is forbidden for the pregnant mother. And somebody will say, why pregnant mother we cannot eat? I can do anything. No, because Prabhupada says the child's body, why it is forbidden? Because the child's body is too delicate and new to tolerate all these kind of very spicy, pungent food, right? And what happens if such food is taken excessively? That is a great subject matter of detailed discussion, right? So, in fact, all the inputs that the pregnant lady takes from all her senses, what she is watching, what she is, meditating on. Like there is a nice story which is quoted by one very famous personality. Her name is Dr. Indumati Katdare, and this personality, Indumati Katdare, is a very, very well-known name in within the circles, who has written hundreds of books on this subject matter and some allied subject matters about Indian culture and everything. So she writes in one of her book is that one day what happened is that there was a English couple, British or American couple, both white-bodied couple, and the lady was pregnant. And when the child was born, a completely black child. And they were wondering, no, this is not to say anything. This is not about anything racism here. Okay. Prabhupada says you are not the body. And the discussion point is not racism here. Okay. Discussion point is something else. Discussion point is Garbhadan and, the contemplation of the lady within that period. And everybody was surprised that, how such thing has happened. And after very deep analysis, they realized this lady was a great fan of, I think, Pele, the football player. And, she had big posters of Pele, when she was pregnant around her room on all the walls. And all she meditated on that Pele, Pele, Pele. And that's how a Pele-like looking personality came out as the child. And therefore, it is very scientific that, the pregnant lady should be covered with all positive subject matters. It should be covered with all Krishna's pictures around. It should be, then naturally, in fact, some people go to the extent that it's a frightening extent. So, they say that almost 90% of the samskaras, they are done within the womb, right? So whatever you want to now, they say that you can engineer your child the way you want by doing this Garbhadan Samskar. Prabhupada says this Garbhadan Samskar is a very scientific process. It is not some fantasy. It is a scientific process where you are actually engineering the characteristics and the traits of the child, into a good trait, so that the child born so that the world is filled with good population, and then there is a prosperity of society, country, and human race. One important statement here, Prabhupada writes, to take care of the child is the primary duty of the parents, right? So while we are reading, very deep philosophical understanding, there is, there is never to say that one can just be irresponsible in one's duties. No, the duties has to be very, very responsible. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada. And thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada, thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Dandavad Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Leelashik Prabhu, you have any question?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, please.
Prabhu, you were saying that once this hellish conditions, the journey in hell or the punishment in hellish conditions is over, he'll again go back to human form of life where he degraded. That's what
Right.
that's what I understood. But sometimes we also say that depends on karma, he'll get into animal form of life. So once he
Right.
takes animal form of life, then he has to go to entire cycle. Like for example, if he becomes cat, then he has to whatever is the number of species above the cycle till human form of life, he has to go to each and every form of life till he gets again human form of life. But this one says he need not to go to all this. Like he takes punishment and again he comes back to animal form of human form of life. There is not mentioning of going back to animal form of life here.
Yeah. See, this karma, the transmission, from one body to another, one species to another, karma philosophy is extremely, detailed. Karmana gahano gati. It's very, very difficult to ascertain. What generally we have understanding is a very simplistic, a global bird's eye view kind of understanding that this happens and this happens and this happens and this is how whole thing is. But if we have to really understand in detail, because it will change based on the type of the hell it is, the type of the crime it is. I mean, the flowcharts of Yamarajji, who will go where after what, they are much more intricate, detailed than the basic understanding we have.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Got it?
Yeah. Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have to really call Yamarajji on a podcast to get all the detailed understanding that which will go where. But this is the general understanding that when will go. You can see nowadays, even some animals, they will live in such a luxury. Just imagine dog of Ambani. He will live in such a luxury than some gutter side dog, right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Now that also depends on the dog's karma in the previous life. Sometimes people say, "Yaar, uska kutta hota to I would have enjoyed more my life." People say like that. Because
So
that will
okay,
be
dogs.
BMW, the dog is eating in all that pedigree and all that kind of a food. There are 3 people who are massaging dog day in, day out. No, serious. This is serious,
So
right?
those are humans took a form of dog because dogs cannot have any karma, right?
No. So see, that's why that's why the karma is very intricate to understand. Very, very difficult to understand. Karmanascha bodhavyam, vikarmanascha ghana karmanogati. It is very difficult to understand, and therefore, the idea is that one should, in how I take it in my life is that I'm happy with the basic framework, and that's okay. Like some dog goes here and there. I mean, all respect to that dog, but that's okay, right? I don't have to understand everything. Is my general understanding. But point here is, it is very, very intricate. Correct?
Understand, bro. And generally, when we try to preach Neha Vikrama Nashasti Shloka, there we say, like it says, we'll be, saved from the greatest dangers of life. The 2.4.
Right.
So there we generally say it's getting into lower births, basically animal form of life.
Correct.
But
Correct.
one, if he says that this shloka says it's anyway is coming to human form, then that shloka is giving different.
No, see, eventually somebody comes to human form. Somebody will say, sir, क्या problem है? 2027 नहीं, 2037 में I will pass my engineering. Yeah, 2037 में you will pass on your engineering, but so much opportunity is lost by spending 10 years in failing the engineering degree.
Okay.
बराबर है?
Okay.
Similarly,
So ultimately,
eventually somebody become human, but then in the meantime, it is not something like, in the meantime, they are going to having a party time, right? There is punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, janma mrityu jara vyadhi, dukhalayam ashashvatam, where we are spending our time.
Yes, Prabhu.
So that opportunity cost, that is the point.
Okay.
And at the, what is the opportunity at the cost of huge suffering.
True. Okay. So this means that after getting from Andathamishka, he may or may not immediately become human. He may again go to animal and then gradually transmigrates into a human form. It could
Yes. That exact detailing of, that's what, I mean, Yama's flowchart, that we have to really find out. And these are very systematic. All systems are, Yamaraj is ISO 14001. Vikarmana Daiva Netrena means they are super fine. Nothing happens by chance.
Yes.
So those systems are very well set. They are God systems, right? One can just see the astro system, the billions of planets and stars and galaxies, how they are moving around. And scientists, they are just wondering some 20 kg of unknown mass is moving here and there, and they are finding iska in Earth kya impact hoga and this and that. It will never impact Earth. That is what the God system says. So one can see God system in astro. Similarly, God system is there in astronomy, astrology also one can see, in the sense, and all designed in favor of the living entity, so that living entities are favorably, finally Krishna also wants everybody to come back home, back to God.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you,
Thank you,
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.